Untuk selanjutnya yaitu Ibu Ita Kotasari, the process and assess structure effect, capital structure profitability, evidence from for ini industry. Untuk selanjutnya Ibu Ita Kotasari dipersilakan.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Today I will present my research entitled Do Firm Size and Asset Structure Affect Capital Structure Through Profitability? Evidence from the Coal Mining Industry. This research was conducted by Intan Purbasari, Nok Nurhayati, and Eni Suhaini. These presentations will keep to the following outline. The research background will be presented first. The second is prior study and hypothesis. Next are data and model specifications, followed by results, conclusions, and contributions. Three variables that will be a concerns in this study include firm size, asset structure, and profitability, and how these three variables are related to the capital structure. The coal mining industry was chosen as the object of the research. And then why was the research conducted? This is because of various factors such as previous research has often associated capital structure with firm size and asset structures, but the results are still different. Some say the relationship between the three variables are positives, while others claim there is a negative relationships. The discrepancy is thought to be caused by the fact that other factors affect how a firm's size and asset structure relate to its capital structure. And profitability is a factor affects how a firm's size, asset structures, and capital structures relate to one another. And the purpose of the study, this study examines mediating role of profitability on the relationships between firm size and asset structures and capital structure in the coal mining industry from the Indonesia Stock Exchange firms. Okay. From this table, we can see some differences in the results of a prior study. And this research will have 7 hypotheses that will be discussed in this study. Why does firm size has a favorable effect on capital structures? This influence on firm size on the capital structure is explained by the pecking order theory. The first, there is a trend to raise debt because the major assets that the firm owns can guarantee the long-term debt. Corporations are thought to have a more minimal risk due to access to funding issues. The more assets a company has and uses debt as a finance or revenue source, the higher the organization's size generally reflects. So, hypothesis 1, firm size positively affect capital structure. Why does asset structure has a favorable effect on capital structure? The impact of asset structure on capital structure is supported by the trade-off theory. The more fixed asset a business has, the more of an impact asset structure has on capital structure. The company will benefit from the increased sales in terms of the amount of profit made, which will serve as the company's capital stock. The bigger the guarantee offered by the company to creditors, the more debt creditors may offer to the company. Creditors will be wary of lending money to the business and they won't consider doing so unless they are assured that their interests will be protected. Fixed assets owned by the corporations are collateral that can guarantee protection for creditors. Hypothesis 2. Asset structure positively affect capital structure. Why does profitability has a positive impact on capital structure? The impact of asset structure on capital structure is supported by the trade-off theory. Business that generates substantial profits might entice investors to invest. Companies with high profit stability will be more willing to accept foreign capital for corporate finance. Businesses that are consistently profitable will keep trying to boost their profits while maintaining the distribution of profits to shareholders. Hypothesis 3. Profitability has a favorable impact on capital structure. Why does firm size has a positive impact on profitability? According to the theory of the firms, more scale means greater profitability since larger businesses may take advantage of economics of scale. The capacity to invest in corporate assets increases with companies' growth. The investment return has the potential to boost earnings after taxes and will rise in direct proportion to the company's profitability. Hypothesis 4. Firm size has a positive impact on profitability. Next, why does asset structure has a positive impact on profitability? According to the trade-off hypothesis, the choice to employ debt by the corporation is based on a comparison of the benefit of tax breaks and the cost of financial difficulty. When financial difficulty arises, fixed asset intensive businesses will trade at a discount to non-fixed asset intensive businesses. Profitability will therefore be further increased by investments employing fixed assets. Therefore, raising the company's debt ceiling can be advantageous. Hypothesis 5. Asset structure has a positive significant effect on profitability. Why might profitability mediating the relationship between firm size and capital structure? Based on the trade-off theory, profitability will rise a company's scale growth because huge business can take advantage of economics of scale. As a result, when businesses create large quantities utilizing the same resources, they have the advantage of lowering production costs. The profitability on capital structure hypothesis suggests that businesses with substantial profits can entice investors to invest. Companies that have a stable stream of profit will be more willing to accept foreign capital for corporate financing since they can afford to pay off their loans and interest. Hypothesis 6. The relationships between business size and capital structure can be mediated by profitability. Why might profitability mediating the relationship between asset structure and capital structures? The trade theory can be used to describe how asset structure affects profitability. Companies with substantial fixed assets can be utilized as corporate guarantees to creditors if they lack the finance for operational activity. Companies with substantial asset structure will see an increase in earning fast because they won't have trouble finding money to fuel their operational activities. Hypothesis 7. The relationships between asset structure and capital structure can be mediated by profitability. And this is the framework of our study. Okay. And the research design, this research with sample selection. The sample in this study consists of 13 firms from the coal mining subsector that were listed on the Indonesia Stock Exchange for the period, this is 2010 until 2019. And the research variable, dependent variable, is capital structure, represented by debt to asset ratio, and an independent variable, the firm size, is represented by the logarithm of total assets, and asset structure is represented by the ratio of fixed assets to total assets. Intervening variables, return on assets serve as a proxy for the variable intervening in these investigations. The effectiveness of management in turning a profit with the asset at hand is gauged by return on asset. And analysis methods. Multiple linear regression analysis was utilized in these investigations. Descriptive statistic analysis, the classical assumptions test, and path analysis were the methodologies utilized to analyze the data. Okay. And then the result, the unreported outcome demonstrates that there are no traditional presumptions in these investigations. And path analysis divided into two substructure, and this is the figure of substructure 1, and this is the Z value, and this is substructure 2, and this is Y value. Okay, and the results. The capital structure on the company is positively and significantly impacted by the firm size. Implies that a big company can have a better capital structure. Hypothesis 1, which asserts that business size positively influences the capital structure, is therefore accepted according to the analysis. The capital structure is positively and significantly impacted by the asset structure to some extent, implies that the capital structure may increase with a huge asset structure. Finally, hypothesis 2, which asserts that asset structure influences capital structure favorably, is acknowledged. The capital structure is so negatively and significantly impacted by partial profitability, shows that a high rate of profitability cannot be used to enhance the capital structure. Finally, hypothesis 3, which asserts that profitability affects the capital structure favorably, is disproved. The size of business only slightly and insignificantly affects its probability. This suggests that a large firm size has little impact on profitability. The assumption that size affects profitability favorably is debunked. The asset structure only has a minimally negative impact on profitability. It shows that a large asset structure has no effect on profitability. Hypothesis 5, which asserts that asset structure favorably impacts profitability, is disproved in this regard. The link between firm size and capital structure in the coal mining subsector company listed on the Indonesia Stock Exchange for the 2010 until 2019 is not mediated by the profitability variable. The link between asset structure and capital structure in the coal mining subsector companies listed on the Indonesia Stock Exchange for 2010 until 2019 cannot consequently be mediated by the profitability variable. And then the conclusion and contribution. The conclusion for these studies are the capital structure is positively and significantly impacted by the firm size. The capital structure is positively and significantly impacted by asset structure. A negative impact on profitability and the capital structure. Profitability is unaffected by the firm. Profitability of an asset structure has no bearing. Profitability was unable to mitigate the impact of firm size on the capital structure of enterprises in the coal mining subsector. Profitability cannot offset the impact of asset structure on capital structure in the enterprises that make up the coal mining subsector. And the contributions, the following recommendations can be made light of the conclusions previously presented. Investors should evaluate or interpret financial statements from a variety of perspectives. rather than only focusing on the firm size and asset structures in order to obtain more accurate information about a company's prospect and utilize it as a factor when deciding whether or not to invest in it. Future studies should measure the capital structure more truly and not just focus on factors like business size, asset structure, and profitability. The following research could perhaps incorporate or take into account a number of factors that have an impact on the capital structure, including tax, control management, attitude, and the attitude of lenders and also rating agencies, market conditions, internal company conditions, financial flexibility. Additionally, additional stock sector listed on the Indonesia Stock Exchange were studied as well as sampling methods than other purposive sampling, in addition to employing samples from the coal mining subsectors. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum.
Untuk selanjutnya kita lanjutkan Bapak Ahmad Suhadi, mediating role of organizational commitment in supporting transformational leadership and the quality of employee performance and di Tangerang atau Mandiri. Selanjutnya waktu dipersilakan, durasi waktu 10 menit bisa dimulai. Keluar dari untuk share screen.
Yeah, okay. I want to set the screens first. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good how to all of us. Today, I'm here just one presenting about the mediating role of organizational commitment in supporting transformational leadership and the quality of employer performance at PT Bintang Krakatau Mandiri. I'm Ahmad Suhandi from Magister Management Sultan Ageng Tirtayasa University. Introductions. Personnel in the company come from numerous distinct places with exclusive traits. So a management figure is wanted with a view to do without them. The studies at PT Bintang Krakatau Mandiri as a production agency, PT BKM continually strive to offer most performance to customer in order that the achievement of worker performance becomes the most decisive component. It is miles recognized from the results of the preliminary look at. Not all of the employers at PT BKM inside the 2020 performance appraisal consequence performance the goal. This indicates that there are issues that worker performance which in this observe are notion to be motivated with the aid of leadership factors, so that transformational leadership patterns are wanted with the intention to enhance them. Here is about research gap. Khan et al. States transformational leadership style are extra flexible in growing worker creativity and autonomy, therefore employer overall performance increases. Second, Mubarak and Darmanto, which proves that there is a super have an effect on of transformational management patterns directly on employer overall performance. The third, Akmarina et al. Of their look at say the alternative as it located that management had a terrible and significant effect on worker overall performance. And last, Balanza et al. It turned it into also found that the transformational management style has a terrible have an effect on employer performance. Even though it has been extensively studied earlier that the consequences of preceding studies show that there are still differences concerning the effect of management patterns and employer overall performance. Studies trouble are formulated to improve employer overall performance at PT BKM. It's means necessary to put into effect the transformational management style, and that is in accordance with intervening of organizational commitments. Here is about the framework model. At the first, transformational leadership style and run to the organizational commitment, and last to the employer performance. The transformational leader are often referred to as model because they are not simple capable or supply orders, but also are willing to stick in on their very own to do the painting in order that their personnel sense secure and values. Therefore, the implemented transformational management passion can have a fantastic have an impact on the achievement of worker work consequence. And then here is about research method. The first, the studies used on this research is explanatory research which pursued to provide an explanation for the causal dating between transformational leadership on organizational dedication and employee overall performance in line with the method of the speculation method. Second, populace in this study have been all employer of PT BKM totaling 81 human beings, no longer including the director and CEO, due to the fact the variety is below 100. This is examined use of employers as pattern of all sampling. And last, the record used in the have and look had been received through the questionnaire which analysts make use this SEMPLS. And here is showing about the order model result. The observed use an important restrict of loading element cost over 0.7. As a consequence, there are signs that must be dropped because they have a loading issue value beneath the critical limit, namely transport, with a loading factor of 0.502 and key IN6 with a loading sink of 0.696. After casting of the two indicators inside the model, then the effect of the very last order model tests are received as follows. And then showing about the inner model result. By the hypothesis, we have the 3 points. The first, transformational leadership style on the employer performance, showing the number values at design. And second, transformational leadership style on organizational commitment, and also showing values like design. And last, organizational commitment on employer performance, that's showing also value design. And then hypothesis test result. We have the checking out speculation, one acquired the statistic values. And then we have the basis on the data, is it now that the result of testing hypothesis. And last, the result of testing hypothesis 3 obtain the T statistic values. Well, such all result data that creates in conclusion, based on the result of the studies that has been defined, we recognize there is an effective and considerable effect between transformational leadership fashion on worker performance. And then the fulfillment of powerful and efficient paintings result may be assisted by the software of transformational leadership fashion. This research who can display a fantastic and sizable influence between transformational leadership fashion on organizational dedication. And last, the high transformational management style make personnel have a high experience of involvement and commitment to the enterprise. There many may be a superb and tremendous impact between organizational commitment to worker overall performance. Exercise organizational commitment to personnel makes them reap maximum work consequence. Well, thanks for your attention. Good how to all of us. See you.
Untuk Bapak Hermani, Bapak Hermani, ada? Ya, Bapak Hermani, ada di sini? Ya, untuk Pak Khaironi, mohon responnya Pak.
Oke. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Here I want to explain about the DAS training improve the quality of workforce. Study at PT Bintang Saka 68. I'm Khaironi from Magister Management Sultan Ageng Tirtayasa University. Introduction. Performance is a common issue in company, which is basically always pursued according to company standards and expectation, both within the scope of individual employer performance and organizational performance. Sometimes performance is only seen in terms of quantity, namely the number of jobs that can be completed, regardless of how the performance is, whether the results are according to procedure or just about work obligation. In order to improve the quality of employer performance, therefore various treatments are needed. One of which is by providing planned and planned training. Business phenomenon. The employer at PT Bintang Saka 68 have tried their best to be able to achieve the work target set by the client company. However, the result of the employer performance assessment actually show a value that is less than optimal and tends to fluctuate every month with several problems. For example, there are still complaints about the attitude of security personnel who seem different to the surrounding environment and don't give a sense of comfort and others. In fact, employers have been given regular training, which should be sufficient for their use in carrying out their work. And then research method. The population in 500 security department workers at PT Bintang Saka 68. The number of sample was determined as many as 83 respondents based on the sloping formula with an error of 10%. The data collection using a questionnaire tool with a 1 until 10 assessment scale that state that they strongly disagree and 2 strongly agree. The analysis techniques use Smart PLS software version 2.01M3. And then result and discussion. Other model testing in the study used algorithm analysis in the PLS application, which was carried out 3 times until obtaining an author loading value that meet the requirements of construct reliability and validity. Based on the data, it is now from the number of initial indicators, as many as 26 items are reduced to 18 items because there are have the 8 items that must be dropped in the research model, namely PEL2, PEL6, PEL7, DIS4, DIS7, EIP4, KIN1, and KIN4. After spawning egg item, the final measurement model is obtained as follows. Inner model test. 1. there is a significant influence of training on employer performance. Second, there is a significant influence of work discipline and employer performance. And third, there is a significant effect on training on job satisfaction. And fourth, there is a significant influence of work discipline on job satisfaction. And last, there is a significant influence of job satisfaction on employer performance. And here I also have the 5 research methods based the hypothesis 1, hypothesis 2, hypothesis 3, hypothesis 4, and hypothesis 5. And this is the conclusion about our studies and research. And the conclusion is based on the result of the research that has been described in the previous chapter. It has been proven that 5 research hypotheses are acceptable and just job satisfaction is proven to be able to mediate to influence of training and work discipline to be able to provide training consistently to all employers alternately with quality materials and methods, follow technology change and job needs support by the competent trainers as proportional number of participants, adequate facilities, sufficient time and training evaluation that are carried out periodically so that employee performance become better and meet employer job satisfaction. That's my presenting. Good health and see you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Oke, thank you. Untuk selanjutnya, Bapak Dani Indra yang akan menyampaikan institutional ownership, managerial ownership, financial to auditor safety and its impact to sustainability is on. Waktu dipersilakan Bapak Dani Indra, waktunya 10 menit, bisa dimulai dari sekarang.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to introduce myself. My name is Dharmendra. I am from University of Sultan Ageng Tirtayasa with the program, doctorate program. And in this occasion, I would like to present my article with the title Institutional Ownership, Managerial Ownership, Financial Distress to Auditor Switching, and its impact to sustainable disclosure. For the introduction, sustainability report disclosure in most countries, including Indonesia, are still voluntary, which means that there are no special rules that oblige as in issuance of financial statement. The data shows that the mining subsector is still less than 67% companies. Some of these environmental harm occurrences show that the company disregards for environmental issues and ignorance of its responsibilities under social responsibilities in business to the community. The goal of the research is to analyze and describe how managerial ownership, institutional ownership, financial distress, SR disclosure, and the auditor switching can all have the impact on the relationship. Stakeholder theory is a view of capitalism that stresses the interconnected relationship between a business and its customer, suppliers, employees, investors, communities, and others who have a stake in the organization. The theory argues that a firm should create value for all stakeholders, not just shareholders. The interaction of institutional ownership and sustainability report disclosure. Institutional ownership refers to share of a corporation held by institutions such as insurance companies, banks, investment firms, and other institutions. Institutional ownership is important in monitoring management because it promotes better supervision and makes it more effective. Higher institutional ownership levels are anticipated to result in greater disclosure from the corporation. The connection between managerial ownership and long-term sustainability report disclosure. Management will more engage in enhancing the company's performance as there is more managerial ownership, since management has a duty to satisfy the wishes of the shareholders, including himself alone. The relationship between financial distress and sustainability report disclosure. This means that the company will reveal less information when the company experiencing financial distress condition. A study conducted by Emmanuel and Muid found that the company was in financial distress condition tend to express less information. The relationship between institutional ownership and auditor switching. Institutional ownership play an important role in decision-making regarding whether it is necessary for the client company to change the auditor in the coming period. The relationship between managerial ownership and auditor switching. Managerial ownership increase the interest of internal parties and shareholders, resulting in decision to increase the company value. Financial distress and auditor switching relationship. Financial distress is a state in which the company experiences difficulties in financial, so it is feared that it will experience bankruptcy. The reason the company needs to hire the quality of the auditor higher than the previous one is to attract the trust of shareholders and increase the company confidence. The relationship between auditor switching and sustainability report disclosure for the parties outside of the entity, such as shareholders, creditors, the government, and other stakeholders to be able to trust the report. Auditing adds value to financial statements of the company. And for the hypothesis one, institutional ownership influence disclosure practice sustainability report. And for the hypothesis two, managerial ownership influence disclosure practice sustainability report. And hypothesis three, financial distress influence disclosure practice sustainability report. And then hypothesis four, institutional ownership influence the auditor switching. And hypothesis five, influence of managerial ownership on auditor switching. And then hypothesis six, the financial distress influence on auditor switching. And then hypothesis seven, auditor switching's influence on the disclosure practice sustainability report. The sampling requirement, the data collection techniques were employed by analyzing financial report data, annual report, and the company sustainability report from the mining companies listed on Indonesia Stock Exchange between 2016 and 2018. And for the result, SR disclosure, the result that companies that reveal SR as many as 10 companies or 40%, while companies that do not disclose SR as much as 15 companies or 60%. This shows that still few mining companies disclose SR as a form of voluntary report, separated from the report annually. And then for the institutional ownership, the variable institutional ownership has the average value mean 0.6 and the standard deviation 0.3. The average value mean is greater than the value of standard deviation. The standard deviation value which is smaller than the average value show that the variation of what happened between data is very low, and the data used in this study is more homogeneous. And for managerial ownership, the average value of this variable is 0.025, which is less than the standard deviation of 0.1, indicating that the standard deviation greater than the average value, that indicate that the variation of what happened between the data is very high and the data used in the study is more heterogeneous. And for the financial distress, the organization with the low, with a score of 6 to 3.5, the average ICR for mining companies is 3.6, which indicate that the most business are not in financial or hardship. And for the auditor switching, the standard deviation is 0.5, whereas the average value of 0.5 indicate that mining companies who listed on the IDX in 2016 till 2018 switched auditors on average by 50%. That the standard errors of variable is small if the average value exceeds the standard deviation value. And the research hypothesis testing result for the hypothesis 1, the significance is 0.002, and the hypothesis 2, the significance is 0.252, and then for hypothesis 3, the significance 0.744, and the hypothesis 4, the significance is 0.002, and for the hypothesis 5, the significance is 0.236, and for the hypothesis 6 is 0.420, and for the hypothesis 7 is 0.520. So for the conclusion, according to the finding of this study, institutional ownership has a negative effect on the SR disclosure, whereas a managerial ownership and financial distress have no effect on SR disclosure. Institutional ownerships, managerial ownerships, and financial distress intervened by the auditor switching effect the disclosure of SR, but the auditor switching of the company field intervened influence of managerial ownership and financial distress on SR disclosure. So according to the study, the disclosure of SR in mining companies in Indonesia is still very low at 19.3%. So that's my presentation to this paper, and thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Untuk selanjutnya kita akan lanjutkan untuk bisa memberikan video. Untuk yang pertama yang akan kami putar adalah video dari Bapak Oker yang untuk Pak Roser tentang the effect of structure, ownership, and profitability to carbon emission discount in semi companies.
Good morning. Perkenalkan, my name Rosel from Sultan Ageng Tirtayasa University. I'm to propose my proposal that's titled "The Effect of Ownership Structure and Profitability to Carbon Emission Disclosure in Indonesian Mining Companies." Thank you very much.
Untuk selanjutnya video dari Bapak Ahmadi MP005.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would like to present our article with title "Profitability as a Mediation Factor, a Test of the Relationship of capital structure to company value. Introduction. Following reason encourage us to conduct current study, mixed finding on the relationship between capital structure and firm value. Find capital structure has a negative impact on firm value, while other research documented that capital structure significantly improve profitability. Further research is required because of the conflicting finding documented in the literature about the impact of capital structure on firm value. The following research are essential in response to mixed findings documented in the literature between capital structure and firm value. Does the capital structure have an impact on the company's value? B. Does profitability depend on the capital structure? C. Can the impact of capital structure on firm value be mitigated by profitability? Hypothesis development. Based on the research question, we propose this following hypothesis. Hypothesis 1, the capital structure changes firm value. Hypothesis 2, capital structure influence profitability in a positive manner. Hypothesis 3, profitability increases a company's value. Research method, we use sample 190 firm years of observation from 2013 2017 from real estate and property industry. Variable measurement, price to book value, the ratio between the market value per share and the book value per share. Second, debt to equity ratio, the proportion of total debt to total equity. So, return on equity, the ratio of net income to total equity. Data analysis technique use statistic descriptive, classic assumption test, path analysis, and hypothesis test. Result number one, we find that capital structure has a positive effect on the firm value. Thus, we support the hypothesis 1. 2, however, we cannot evidence that capital structure influence the profitability, even though it has positive coefficient. 3, we also find that profitability has positive effect on firm value, supporting the hypothesis 3. Conclusion, as long as it is deep below the ideal level, the company's use of debt is seen as a positive development because it can lead to higher tax saving than the risk of financial difficulty. Additional effort by the company's management to increase profitability by increasing the debt ratio don't seem to be working. A high level of profitability will tend to increase investment in the company. The study has several limitations. First, the number of observed variables is still constrained. Second, The study do not incorporate additional proxies. Third, we don't include control variables in our regression model. Future research can incorporate this limitation to improve the study. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Untuk selanjutnya para video dari Mas Suryani.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege for me to be part of the International Conference on Sustainability in Technological, Environmental, Legal, Management, Social, and Economic Matters. As we all know, the main goal of the multidisciplinary conference is to provide a platform for researchers, professionals, scholars, and academicians to exchange and share their knowledge, informations, new ideas, and experience in persons and with their peers from all over the world. Let me introduce my research team before presenting my research paper. The title is How Overconfidence Affect Value Creations of Firms, Evidence from Moderating Role of Dividend Policy in Indonesia. My name is Emma Suryani. I am from University of Sultan Ageng Tirtayasa. My teammates are Nok Nurhayati and Yani Januarsi. So here is the structures of our presentations. This is the main outline. We'll start with the theoretical background of the paper. Next is our prior studies and hypothesis. After that, I will explain about the data and model specifications. And then after that, coming to the result. And the last is conclusions and contributions. Next is our next slides is about the theoretical background that will be the main reason why we choose to write this paper. So the primary goal of a company is to maximize shareholder welfare in increasing firm value. Today, competitive economy, managers encourage making decisions that increase the company value. Prior research indicates that the decisions-making process is based on the manager's confidence, where there is a significant influence on decision-making. So the signaling theory can send either positive or negative signals, positive or negative signals to investor. Dividend policy will be closely related to managers' decision-making behavior, specifically whether or not to divide dividends. Confidence in the manager is also demonstrated when the manager withholds the dividend because there are more appealing opportunities and benefits in the form of shareholders' prosperity if this isn't due to the market's of arrogance. The companies may optimum for wait-and-see approach dividend payout in firms led by CEOs who are more likely to be overestimate, and we call it overconfident manager. Dividend reductions caused by CEO overconfidence are found in companies with lower potential growth and cash flow. The magnitude of the positive market reactions to a dividend announcement is greater for companies with higher level of CEO overconfidence. So As we can see here, we have three variables: managerial overconfidence, dividend policy, that we address on firm value, the data from Indonesia. Why we choose this topic? Because we were unable to discover any research finding demonstrating the role of dividend policy in explaining the relationship between manager overconfidence and firm value. We also do not, there are also this kind of empirical study do not include additional tests regarding firm size and leverage in the initial analysis. So we also find that there are mixed evidence documented in the literature. So it is make us and lead us to investigate on how managerial overconfidence and dividend policy associate with firm value. Yeah. The literature review in this study revealed conflicting ending of the relationship, but when managerial overconfidence and firm value, as documented in a prior study, where dividend policy sometimes has a negative impact on a manager's arrogance, with high self-confidence, manager overconfidence tend to withhold dividend distributions if they see investment as familiar opportunity. If the investment opportunity is successful, it will benefit both the company and the manager. However, from another perspective, managerial overconfidence is frequently rational or far from irrational. Unreasonable managers are more likely to overestimate and underestimate company decisions. Both analytical and rational decision-making attitude will have an impact on the company's future and sustainability. So we make these two competing views. One is substitute for the substitute views, and other views is for complement views. For substitute views, we see this is as a negative relationship where having market pressure on overconfidence manager helps manager overconfidence and dividend policy rise firm value. And for the other views, there are a positive relationship where manager overconfidence and dividend policy complement firm value by encouraging manager to be more confident, and this will lowering firm value. So the purpose of this study is to attempts to investigate which perspective will be assert on the relationship between manager overconfidence and dividend policy that will affect the value of a company in Indonesia. So here is the prior study and hypothesis for the relationship between managerial overconfidence and the firm value and dividend policy as a moderating variable, where we found a positive and a negative result. Okay. The first question is, why does manager overconfidence can discipline or complement manager engaging firm value? Yeah, manager overconfidence can reduce firm value because overconfidence leads to overestimation of knowledge and skill, while underestimations of risk. It is also give the impressions that you have control over problems and events when you do not. Overconfidence managers are more likely to overestimate future returns on investment. As a result, managers overestimate the severity of future shocks. Positive cash flow for ongoing projects will understate future cash flow shocks that could reduce the company's value. So we then give this following hypothesis. For hypothesis 1, higher managerial overconfidence decrease firm value. Next, for the relationship of managerial overconfidence, firm value, and discipline and dividend policy, we argue that dividend policy may play a role in moderating in association between overconfident manager and firm value. It is because firm's policy will be directly coming from the top management, such as investment decisions the dividend policy or whether firm need to expand or hold current business as it is. When the top management has an overconfident character, he may set a higher ratio for the dividend. The capital market will positively respond to the firm's dividend policy, enhancing the value of a firm. Thus, we assume that dividend policy is essential in reducing managerial overconfidence behavior. Therefore, overconfidence must be combined with dividend policy to reduce overconfidence behavior and increase firm value. Based on this argument, we pose the following hypothesis. The hypothesis 2, that dividend policy has a moderating role on the relationship between managerial overconfidence and firm value. Next slide is our research design, where the samples was all publicly listed firms in Indonesia Stock Exchange, excluding financial and banking industry due to different characteristics and regulations which can influence the firm value measurement. And the period is from 2010 to 2020. Final sample is 4,092 firm years observation from 341 list firms. This is our model specification to testing both hypotheses. And then this is the result for baseline model. Hypothesis for dividend policy, which suggests that dividend policy can inhibit overconfident managers' behavior, increasing the company's value. The second conclusion is further investigation reveals that dividend policy acts as a moderating variable between managerial overconfidence and firm value. The last conclusion is from the additional analysis. We also show that the role of managerial overconfidence in reducing is stronger in small firm and high leverage firms. So this is the result for robustness test. And the contributions are, first is the additional tests also provide new evidence about the relationship between managerial overconfidence, dividend policy, and firm value from various conditions which typically exist in Indonesia. More important, our finding can be used as fundamental reference for emerging market research for future research in similar issue.
Demikian untuk presentasi yang terakhir untuk video. Jadi nanti kita akan masuk kembali yang seksi keduanya. Kita akan mulai 13 sekarang. Jadi mohon nanti bisa dipersiapkan. Dan untuk yang sudah kirim video nanti kita akan di akhir sesi. Nanti kita akan mulainya ada dua yang memberikan video, yaitu kunci 02 dan kunci 03. Jadi ini mohon dipersiapkan yang presentasi pertama MC 033. Demikian untuk session 1 dari 2. Nanti kita akan bertemu kembali di sesi 2-nya pukul 13.00. Mohon nanti bisa tepat waktu menjadi sesi 2. Demikian untuk sesi 2 dari 2 kami akhiri sampai di sini. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.